Live from WKMG, the Problem Solvers. This is Local 6 News at 11, voted Florida's best newscast.
Now, Local 6 does have a presence in New York right now. Gerald Resnick has been making his way furiously to the Big Apple. And Gerald, I understand that it's been a difficult road for you to get there.
A very difficult day to get here. Most of the bridges to Lower Manhattan, most of the tunnels closed, obviously, today. And want to bring you up to date on what's happening here now in Manhattan. Behind me, you can see in the distance is Lower Manhattan down toward the financial district. That's where the wreckage of the World Trade Center is now smoldering at this point. And breaking news, we understand that the bottom 4 floors, the remaining 4 floors of Tower 2, the South Tower, have now collapsed. They were able to get most of the rescue crews out of the area in time. They don't believe they've lost anybody else in this, but they do have other fears, other dangers at this point. Building 5, which is roughly a 20-story building, is in danger of collapsing at this point. And obviously, this is hampering the rescue efforts and the recovery efforts to get the bodies and the victims out of all of that debris and rubble. They will continue to go in, though, continue to assess the situation as the day goes on. A little bit more now on what we're experiencing here in Midtown. We're obviously about 60 blocks from the Battery, which is the lower part of Manhattan. There is still the acrid smoke in the air up here where we're standing. Very few people in the streets, and obviously they have blocked off most of the lower part of this island. They are not allowing folks in there unless they are doctors, unless they are medical personnel, unless they are rescue workers to get in and help folks. Now, we did have a chance just a short time ago to speak to some folks from Orlando, a doctor who flew in over the weekend with his family, with some friends. They plan to have a great weekend here. They also plan to go to the World Trade Center yesterday. They did not do that. Dr. Alan Safran is an ear, nose, and throat doctor. He says he walked the 50 blocks down to NYU Hospital yesterday, volunteered his services, but of course, during the bulk of what was going on down there, they were not bringing any victims in. Most of the folks walking in had superficial wounds. He is now trying to find his way home with his family. They think they're going to have to rent a car and drive all the way back to Orlando. Of course, we'll continue to monitor the situation here, try to find folks from Central Florida. Obviously, if you know anybody, give us a call or write us, email us on mycfnow.com, and we'll try to bring you their stories as we are here in Manhattan. For now, we're live in New York City. Gerald Resnick, Local 6.
Gerald Resnick, the only local reporter in New York City right now, doing his best to give you as much local reaction in the Big Apple as possible. Tonight, as the search and rescue efforts continue in New York, the horrifying numbers are just being released of just how high this death toll could go. There are now reports that it could exceed, unbelievably, 20,000 victims. Meantime, just moments ago, breaking news at the World Trade Center. Local 6 reporter Gerald Resnick, the only local reporter on the scene. He joins us now by telephone at Ground Zero with the very latest. Gerald, what can you tell us?
Well, Bob, we just arrived here at Ground Zero just a few minutes ago and trying to wait to get a camera set up, but obviously we have to do this by telephone at this point. What we did is we had to walk through the barricades at 14th Street to get down to the lower portion of Manhattan. I want to tell you why it took so long tonight. We were up at 38th and Broadway getting some videotape edited, and they had a slight emergency this evening. They had the Empire State Building and Penn Station, a suspicious package found. While we were trying to walk up the street, people were running in the opposite direction, and they had to get us out at that point. And it took us, I would say, a good hour to walk down about 25 blocks to get to this location. I want to talk a little bit more now. They tell us that situation has been resolved here, and they are opening traffic, and that the all clear has been given at the Empire State Building. Here at Ground Zero, as you were mentioning, here at the World Trade Center, we had quite a few victims. They had a lot of building collapse earlier today, and now we are learning that they are giving the estimates about 20,000 people could have perished in this disaster, in this terrorist attack on America. They are also saying that we could have about hundreds of missing firefighters and police officers. Now, earlier today, George Pataki, the governor of New York, ordered 6,000 body bags be brought in here just in case, to get the folks prepared as they continue the rescue and recovery work. Obviously, this area, there are a lot of folks who live here. The scene is very fluid. They are closing roads. They are opening barricades. There's only foot traffic if you are not in a fire truck or in a police car at this point. We do want to mention that we had a chance to speak to some folks from Central Florida as they were here, and they are trying to get out of town. They were supposed to leave earlier today, and right now they say they're going to rent a car and they're going to drive back. We'll have more for you later on. For now, we are live in Lower Manhattan. Gerald Resnick, Local 6.
They're certainly on edge in the New York City tonight. Now, the rescue effort in the wake of the worst.
We've also learned that the black box signal from the Pennsylvania crash has also been detected. Local 6 reporter Gerald Resnick is the only Central Florida reporter able to witness the amazing rescue efforts firsthand. He joins us live now with a look through the eyes of locals who have found themselves in the middle of a war zone. Gerald.
Yeah, that's right, Jackie. Before we get to the folks from Central Florida, let's talk a little bit about the folks here in New York City. You know, many people for years considered New Yorkers to be some of the rudest in the United States of America, but today they are coming together in a time of crisis. They are the furthest thing from being rude, and they're reaching out to help one another in this time of crisis. We're in Upper Manhattan today, talking to a woman whose sister lives in St. Cloud. As we drove up that way, you would see flags in store windows, people looking as the paramedics drove from that far, 10, 12 miles away. We're now here in Lower Manhattan, right next to Chelsea Pier. This is a staging area for many of the ambulances and firefighters, the Salvation Army, the National Guardsmen who are going down there to dig through the rubble. They are heading down this way toward the buildings. The World Financial Center behind me still standing, but very damaged. And, you know, in the middle of all this, there are people from Central Florida who are trapped here, but they are looking, they are seeing the signs of solidarity, and they're looking for those signs of hope. It's a race against time and unstable buildings. Time to rescue those who may still be trapped here, alive. But each time rescuers get close, they are pulled back. The last few floors of Tower 2 collapse. Other buildings ready to go.
And here's the airplane that crashed in the building.
From the mouths of babes, for Dr. Alan Safran and his wife Pam, the attack on America all but ended their New York vacation. The Winter Park couple flew here last weekend with their friends and their young boys.
But remember what happened to the sky? What happened to the sky?
It got smoke.
It got really smoky and there was a lot of fire. And how did that make you feel, Miles, when that happened?
Scared and sad.
It'd be one thing if I was here by myself, but with my family, it's been tough because I'm trying to help my children understand what has happened and the sadness that it has brought. And I think it will be something that they always will remember.
Pam has tried to explain why Dad disappeared at the height of the crisis. Dr. Safran went to medical school here. He walked 50 blocks to volunteer to help patients rush to NYU Hospital.
I wasn't that close, and I didn't do anything heroic or anything that anybody else wouldn't have done. I just figured, well, there are certain things that I'm capable of doing, and even if I'm not exactly a perfect fit, I had to be able to help somehow.
The Safrans want to go home, but with transportation out of the city snarled, they're not sure how they're going to do it.
We have to get out of here. We cannot, we're like sitting ducks here. We can't sit here.
Talk a little bit more about the Safrans right now. They are now on the way home. I understand they have rented a car. They're driving back to Orlando. They did not want to be in New York City anymore. I'm looking behind me. All of these cars you see coming at this point, well, they are folks who are working in the disaster zone. They are driving out. They're doing constant shifts. Stay with us for the next 90 minutes. We'll talk more about what's happening here in Lower Manhattan. We'll also introduce you to some folks from Florida who believe they have lost loved ones down there at the World Trade Center. For now, we're live in Lower Manhattan. Gerald Resnick, Local 6.
Gerald, we'll check back with you. Thank you, sir. Tense moments this afternoon.
In New York, people whose loved ones are missing are turning out in droves to area hospitals with pictures, hoping someone can tell them anything about their family and friends.
Our Gerald Resnick, is the only local reporter in Lower Manhattan. Jared, I would imagine that that's got to be a heartbreaking picture down there.
Very heartbreaking, Bob, Jackie. You know, we talk about folks going to local hospitals, but if you extend it just a little bit further than that at this point, what you look at is you have the Armory that was opened up today as a family center. This is folks, thousands of them showing up with pictures in hand, trying to register their loved ones who may have been down just 20 blocks south of me down at the World Trade Centers, trying to find out where their loved ones are, trying to figure out if they're alive, if they're dead, if their bodies have been recovered. At this point, just about 100 bodies have been identified. So it's been a very heartbreaking day for many people here in New York City. As we were driving into town yesterday, we stopped at a gas station 20 miles outside of town. The young woman there told me that she knew 3 people who worked in the World Trade Center in the 2 towers. And you will hear that all over New York City, in New Jersey, in Connecticut. Folks here knew somebody who worked there when you're talking of the magnitude of 10 to 20,000 possible victims. Guys?
All right, Gerald,
if I can find my...
Gerald, can you still hear us? All right, Gerald, we've lost Gerald for so. Do we still have Gerald? All right. Gerald, can you hear me?
Sorry, having a little audio difficulty.
I understand.
Bob, go ahead.
All right, Gerald, if you can give us some sort of a mood, we're 3 days removed now, or 2 days removed from the tragedy, some sort of a mood further away from the World Trade Center. Are things getting back to normal? You said you were in Upper Manhattan.
You know, Upper Manhattan, Midtown Manhattan, yes, things are getting back to normal, and folks are driving on the roads. They're going out to the flower shops and to the hot dog stands. But down here, you can see absolutely nothing. We're going to have Chris pan over a little bit. This is somewhat of a staging area at the Chelsea Piers. This is a major recreation area here in Lower Manhattan, and right now it is a staging area for all of the ambulances and everything else. Obviously, the mood not good. Just a few moments ago, we saw some big trucks take cars out of the out of the rubble. They were on their backs, on their tops, basically the wheels sticking up, covered with debris and cement dust. That is a heartbreaking sight, the least, when you see them driving out of here with that kind of debris, knowing so many people are buried down there. I want to talk a little bit about the size of what's going on here right now. We were trying to give a little perspective for folks who live in Orlando. When you look behind me and you see this, you see these buildings, this would be an area roughly the size of most of downtown Orlando. The World Trade Centers are absolutely enormous. They had their own subway that ran into there. The buildings, 50,000 employees. So you have to imagine, if you live in Central Florida, just how big this is. From I-4 to Robinson to Colonial, an enormous area that is just devastated and covered with debris at this point. Guys?
Gerald, you know, we've heard so many reports, and they're heartbreaking ones, of people who are just walking around with signs of their missing loved ones, just walking around the streets of New York asking for some clue. Have you seen a lot of that?
We saw a lot of that, Jacqueline, and coming up in about a half an hour at 6 o'clock, we're going to show you a little bit more of that. Folks from Florida here vacationing like I was in the Philadelphia area, folks visiting here in the Northeast whose loved ones work down at the World Trade Center or may have worked in the New York City Fire Department, the New York City Police Department, believe that their loved ones are gone, believe their loved ones are dead. They are now walking around. And the reason why they're showing pictures is because they don't know if their loved ones are dead. They may be dazed, they think. They may be in a hospital, and they would hope that somebody may recognize that picture. And that's one reason why over the next several days, you are going to see these pictures on your television screens, on the network news, on the local news, as people try to get their loved ones' faces out there, as they try to get some recognition that maybe this person is still alive.
All right. Gerald Resnick, the only local reporter that is in Manhattan at this time, is able to give us these exclusive reports. Thank you, Gerald. You know, for some, there is strength in numbers. That is why families 163 missing from the World Trade Tower crash. A fourth building in the World Trade Complex is swaying right now. The top floors of building number 5 are buckling and might soon give way. And all U.S. airports are open again, but with limited flights both in and out. Now, Local 6 reporter Gerald Resnick is in New York City for us tonight. He is the only reporter from Central Florida that is surveying the damage and the atmosphere of New York at Ground Zero. Gerald, good evening.
Good evening, Bob. We've been talking for the past 70, 80 minutes about the desperation of many of the folks who lost loved ones after the planes crashed into the World Trade Center towers, after those twin towers crashed into the ground. Today we saw them walking around, their hearts heavy. They carried pictures. You know, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. 1,000 pictures are worth many more.
We need some sort of closure. I mean, we hope he's alive, but even if he's not, you know, if they at least find him, it would make it so much easier for all of us.
Sandy Rosenblum joins hundreds, thousands who wait outside the Armory at 26th and Lexington. Pictures in hand, hearts heavy, stories to tell. The Lake Worth woman's son-in-law, Eric Sand, now MIA. The 36-year-old worked in World Trade Center Tower 1 with the investment firm of Cantor Fitzgerald.
Very distraught. I mean, my daughter's 33 years old. She's too young to be a widow.
There's hope, there's anguish, there's frustration. either way, I think there's a lot of frustration being pent up and built up that we just want an answer either way.
Joe Arena says he'd like to find his brother-in-law, Randy Scott, who worked with Euro brokers on the 84th floor of Tower 2. Scott's sisters live in Florida. Arena and they, like many others, now searching for anything to hold on to, even as the rescue and recovery work moves ahead. The numbers of missing now nearing 5,000, including those who tried to help in the first place. New York City firefighter Keith Roy Maynard was one of the first to go in. He hasn't been heard from since.
I did everything that I should. All I have to do now is hope him.
And Sharon Cole has that hope tonight after two firefighters, as you mentioned, Bob, found in the rubble alive. They do believe those folks were buried, though, after one of the buildings collapsed, secondary collapse that came along. We should mention tonight that the rescue effort continues to go on. You can see the ambulances down here behind me. Flags are flying. We're getting thumbs up from many of the rescuers as they come out of the rubble. And we've had a wind change tonight, a wind shift. Much of the smoke from the fire still burning down at the lower end of this island coming our way. The mask like this necessary tonight if you want to breathe in this area. For now, we're live in Lower Manhattan. Gerald Resnick, Local 6.
Gerald, keep yourself safe, and we will see you again tonight at 11. Thank you, sir.
Before we continue with this tragedy, we do want While the rescue and recovery mission continues for hundreds of firefighters and volunteers, much of New York is using today's day of prayer to move forward. Local 6 reporter Gerald Resnick is the only Central Florida reporter who's able to witness the city as it turns a corner.
As if awakened from a long slumber, the city that never sleeps once again alive with activity in Times Square. Tourists wait in line for theater tickets, surrounded by reminders of what happened just blocks away.
I think they're trying to make the best of it, you know, trying to find things to do, walk around, shop, and just people are trying to make the best of it, being very supportive and patriotic.
A feeling of patriotism from foreign tourists, too. Carrie Fitchett now looking for a diversion to keep her mind off disaster.
Well, it was a ghost town here for a while, but it is coming back to normal, and I'm looking forward to going home.
Many feel trapped emotionally and physically. While transportation out of New York has snarled, the city streets return to normal. And even survivors like Joe Madison, who escaped the 78th floor of Tower 2, are ready to move on.
If there's anything you can take away from this is that life is short and life's for the living. If there's anything I can take away from it, it's that. Enjoy it while you can, because you don't know when it's going to end.
That was Gerald Resnick reporting from New York. Now, the crowds were fighting to get out, an unselfish act of bravery that in all likelihood cost him his life.
Our Gerald Resnick is the only local reporter in Lower Manhattan. Gerald, we know it's been another difficult day, but is there a sense at all that people are beginning to turn the corner now?
Great sense of hope out here right now, Jackie. The president, as you mentioned, was just here a few minutes ago. In fact, about 15 minutes ago, his entourage, including the mayor of New York, former mayor of New York, the congressional delegation from the city, from this state, passed by us on their way to St. Vincent's Hospital. They're going up there to visit some of the patients who have been checked in, and they're going to talk to the nurses and doctors who have been helping out greatly during this disaster. Behind me, you can see the constant traffic that is going out on this road. This is kind of a city divided at this point. Below 14th Street, you have rescue work going on. Above it, well, life gets back to normal. This is constant traffic filled with paramedics, police officers, and emergency workers as they come and go to work out here. I'm going to walk around real quick and show you what we're dealing with at this point. All along here, we can call this Media Row. This is where most of the media have set up to cover what is likely the biggest event here in American history in a very long time. And beyond that, you see all of the people standing out here. Well, they are cheering the folks on. There is the sense of hope that they have been looking for this whole day, with the Commander-in-Chief, President Bush, here, and the people of New York coming out to make sure they know that they are supported in the work they're doing down at the World Trade Center. For now, we're live in Lower Manhattan. Gerald Resnick, Local 6.
Quite literally the city that never sleeps these days. Thank you, Gerald.
There is a lot happening today concerning
CBS News, New York.
But guys, as the rescue and recovery efforts continue tonight, we know of thousands of folks here in New York City, across the nation, waiting for any sign, any word from their loved ones that they're okay. Those loved ones trapped in the rubble of the World Trade Center. We do know of one woman in Central Florida who knows her sister and her nephew are okay. The rush to rescue all along the West Side Highway, paramedics, police, volunteers patiently wait their turn, seeing signs of solidarity, signs of the terrible task ahead.
Everything that went through our head, when that second one blew, that is not a mistake. We are being bombed. When that building fell, I thought we were definitely being bombed in the whole area. I says, this is not just a one-shot deal. We're all being bombed. We got to get out of here.
Daisy Rosario knows this area well. She works here.
This is a 13-story building, and I'm up on the 8th floor.
She says her sister Lucy in St. Cloud thought her job still took her to the Twin Towers. Lucy and others called.
Thank God. Thank God. There's no other word you could say but, oh, you're alive.
And the same sentiment for her son, who escaped the collapse and the cloud of debris from the campus of Manhattan Community College.
I don't know, it hit us hard, man. It hit us all hard. I mean, just to see people jumping out that building.
Both made it home, a long walk.
$20. This is what got me home.
Now the constant coverage, a feeling of safety here in their Washington Heights walk-up, but also sorrow for those who didn't get out.
It breaks my heart to see them down there, and they're looking for their family members, but chances are, you know, they're not alive.
The mayor said he's going to rebuild, and them towers have got to go up. That's the only way we're going to show them that in your face.
And it may take some time before they actually begin rebuilding the financial district. At this point, they are focusing on the rescue effort. But a short time ago, we noticed a lot of construction crews, heavy equipment and trucks staging in an area just up the street, which means this may soon turn from a rescue effort to one of recovery. In Lower Manhattan, Gerald Resnick, Local 6.
Gerald, thank you. It has been 2 days. Instructed for those who gave their lives. You know, many in New York told us directly that they want the towers rebuilt.
Local 6 reporter Gerald Resnick gauged the opinion. He was the only local reporter to speak to the residents, volunteers, and victims' families. Tonight, he shares some of his video and his thoughts.
In the hours after the attack, with our small camera rolling, we caught something unimaginable in this city of 8 million. Empty streets, silence except for the constant wailing of sirens in the distance. And what the camera couldn't capture, the smell, like 1,000 fires burning at once. The clouds shifting from Brooklyn to Midtown to New Jersey. I found Pam Saffron and her family vacationing from Winter Park.
When the first crash happened, you could see that the city got real scared. And then all of a sudden, 15 minutes later, there was another crash. And then all of a sudden, the city came to a complete standstill.
It didn't last long. Near Chelsea Pier, a massive entertainment complex on the Hudson River, thousands of volunteers rallied. We taped the effort. Ambulances lined up, residents cheering as rescue workers drove away from the wreckage, trying to lift their spirits. Pam's husband, a doctor, and other vacationing doctors volunteered at hospitals only to find few victims to help. It didn't matter. With each passing hour, the signs of solidarity grew and remain, even as the carnage emerged, as the president drove by. The city that never sleeps, alight with candles and hope. And an incredible feeling, the generosity in the streets, simply incredible. The last night there, people in Greenwich Village took my brother and our freelance producer and myself out to dinner, and they were handing us candles and lighting them for us, saying, do you want one of these?
Amazing.
So, yeah.
You know, I thought it was interesting. You wonder, we were talking about this in the commercial, how do these people continue? And the way that you continued, it's not hitting you now, you focus on your job.
It didn't really hit me until I got home the Saturday afternoon when we left and went to Philadelphia. And I was there doing a job. I'm a journalist and really looking for the stories, but it hit me when I got home, the thousands of people standing in line with those pictures. And you realize the enormity of this, the loss in the city, and people just looking for anything to hold on to.
And you brought back some pictures.
Yeah, the postcards that we've talked about in these amazing buildings that are now gone.
Yeah. All right, Gerald. Thank you very much. Good work. Travel is down. The stock market is down.
He was on the 60th floor of the South World Trade Center tower, hit by terrorists. He was knocked down and sent running for his life. Today, the Central Florida native is back in his hometown, telling a first-hand account of the worst terrorist attack on U.S. soil. Gerald Resnick has the story you'll see only on 6.
It was like it was a toy, a little ticker toy that just happened to fall apart and went down so easy.
For 32-year-old Michael Dudley, this stolen moment with his sister Michelle Grossman means a lot. A feeling of joy, but also guilt. A welcome home here. He made it home. Dudley works as a graphic designer for Morgan Stanley Dean Witter. He was at work on the 60th floor of the South Tower when the first plane hit the North Tower.
One of our co-workers, our lawyer, happened to see the plane. Everyone was thinking it was a missile because they heard it. They just heard the hiss of the plane and then the boom. And, but Bob saw a plane, so we all decided, well, let's just go.
He says they made their way down 16 floors. A man told them to be calm, to grab coffee, even to go back to work.
This guy on a bullhorn, seconds after he said that 2 was secure, there was a boom, an explosion, the walls shook. I fell, it knocked me off my feet.
He says the elevators blew. He and others scrambled to stairwells. And he started out jumping 5 steps at a time, then slowed to a crawl as hundreds made their way out. An eternity, then the first to look up.
It was just feeling very strange right then. I didn't know what I was experiencing. It was one of those moments where you start reevaluating your life, you know, thinking, what am I doing here? This is not right.
Dudley snapped pictures on the way out. The collapse, the cloud. It took him 5 hours to walk home to Brooklyn. The fear as military planes flew overhead. He says dozens fell to their knees, fearing another attack. Left shell-shocked, Michael Dudley is proud of his new home, neighbors who rallied to help others, and he is glad to be here at home, where his heart is, and the healing begins.
It was important. You know, it makes me feel like everything's okay.
Now, you may know that during this attack, shortly after it, the cell systems, the phone systems in the Northeast were completely jammed with phone calls. But he was able in 2 hours' time to get one call out to his mom here in Orlando. He said that was very important to tell her that he's all right. He says to this day, as he sleeps tonight, he does have nightmares about what happened in his office building.
I imagine he would. We all have nightmares, and we were so far away.
Exactly.
All right, Gerald, thank you very much. New at 5:30, security.